Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a little bit of technical analysis on Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency markets, and more specifically, I want to do some altcoin technical analysis because over the last couple of months, I've had a lot of different people ask me for specific altcoins to do TA on. I've specifically had someone ask me to do Litecoin technical analysis, and I've heard people ask for XRP technical analysis and Ethereum technical analysis, and I believe I heard someone even ask for some Stellar Lumens technical analysis. So in today's video, we're going to run down the top 10 list here on CoinMarketCap and do some technical analysis on the interesting cryptocurrencies that I think you guys would like to see some TA done on. So without much further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. The first coin that we're going to talk about is, of course, Bitcoin, but we've talked about Bitcoin so much, so there's not a whole lot to cover. I'll do this right before we get to the crypto market recap. Bitcoin has fallen below $4,000, at least on Coinbase. On Bitfinex, Bitcoin actually fell below $4,000 and is now back up above $4,000 and is getting support here. This is a very important development because Bitcoin trades in relation to the Bitfinex chart a little bit more than it does to the Coinbase chart, because Bitfinex and Coinbase, the reason I look at both of these charts is because they have two different prices for Bitcoin and they're about $100 apart. But if we look over here on CoinMarketCap, we can see the average composite price of Bitcoin across all exchanges, and Bitcoin across all exchanges is above $4,000. So we recently fell below 4K and we are now back somewhere up above it, which is a very good development. I like to see the fact that Bitcoin on Bitfinex, for example, has come down and tested $4,000 a lot. We came down below it a little bit for about 12 hours or so, but now we're back up above it. If we're going to stay above $4,000, I'm very happy to see that level being well and truly established as a strong level of support, and I would like to see that trend continue. Speaking of trends, there are some trend lines that I want to show you guys. One of them is this downtrend right here that I mentioned in a previous video. This is an important downtrend because we have a couple of touches here. We have a touch right over here, and we can extend it further back right over here. And honestly, because trend lines work like this, if we were to extend it far enough back into the past, we'd probably find it making touches back over here somewhere, like right about there, that downtrend right there that was actually important back over here in mid-October. Anyway, we do want to look at downtrends and uptrends to get kind of an idea of where Bitcoin is headed. So we do have a downtrend of resistance right now, and we do also have an uptrend of support right now, kind of squeezing Bitcoin in around this price of around $4,000. If we come out here to the daily chart, I'm going to rehash some of what we said yesterday, but I do want to bring up the oscillators down here at the bottom of the chart. We do see the RSI is sitting up here, still in oversold regions, indicating that we're probably going to be moving up from here a little bit. And we also do see that we still have a bullish MACD cross right here, and we do still see that stochastic RSI looks good. If we look at the Heikin Ashi, though, we do see that Heikin Ashi has turned red and is moving downward. As you can see, if we get rid of this trend line for just a second, then we actually have something interesting happening on the Heikin Ashi, which is kind of counter to whatever all the other things I just said, which is that we see no wixes up here on the top of the Heikin Ashi candlesticks right here. See how these last two red candlesticks, let me go ahead and get rid of these oscillators. These last two red candlesticks don't have a wick right there and right there. What that indicates is that Heikin Ashi has a lot of bearish momentum at the moment. As you can see, when we were in this downtrend over here, for the better part of 2.5 weeks, none of these candlesticks had a wick on the top, which with the Heikin Ashi candlesticks, which you can get to in this menu up here, means that Heikin Ashi is extremely bearish. So what that means over the last couple of days is that the overall sentiment for Bitcoin is quite bearish, at least on the daily time frame. If we were to come down to something like the 4-hourly, as you can see, we've been bearish for a little while, but in the last 12 hours or so, we've been moving to the upside. So that's something to keep in mind. Sometimes you have to look at multiple different time frames because the daily chart does condense a lot of different important information into daily candlesticks. That's why it's important to look at different time frames. Anyway, that's about all I want to talk about on Bitcoin today. If I were to make a guess of where Bitcoin's going to go, I think it's going to continue being in this little consolidation pattern, if you want to call it that, for the next couple of days, and we might see a more major move come in a week or so, but I don't think we're going to see any drastic major move come out of Bitcoin in the next little while, partially because we've seen the ability for Bitcoin to go on a little bit more of a rally in the last couple of days. All the technicals were looking very bullish back over here. All the technicals were looking very bullish right over here also, and we didn't see a major rally. And just recently, we tried to go below $4,000 and didn't manage it. So that means that the bulls and the bears, in my opinion anyway, are kind of exhausted and they don't have a lot of exuberance to go and make another major rally or a major downtrend like we saw the bears pull off here in November. Anyway, that was some pretty condensed technical analysis on Bitcoin. I hope you guys got some good value out of that. Let's go ahead and get on to the crypto market recap and refresh the page. And we're not going to do TA on all 10 cryptocurrencies here in the top 10. Obviously, we're not going to do Tether. We're not going to do TA on Tether or Bitcoin SV. But I do want to talk about some of the interesting ones. A couple of the important ones, of course, being the next three here in the top 4, XRP, Ethereum, and Stellar. I do want to talk about all three of those because all three of them have rather interesting charts. But here on CoinMarketCap, Bitcoin is the only gainer today in the top 10 besides Tether and Litecoin. But we do see that the majority of the cryptocurrency market is in fact a little bit red. I said the majority of the cryptocurrency market were actually about split. This was a little bit different about an hour ago. This has changed a little bit, but we do see that the market is about split. Here in the top 10 anyway, the majority of cryptocurrencies are in the red. XRP's down 0.5%, Ethereum's down 1/3%, Stellar's down 1%, EOS and Bitcoin Cash down 6 and 7% respectively. Not great days for them, but also, like we've said many times, not anything to really write home about. Bitcoin's daily volume is hovering around $5.5 billion, a nice amount of volume on Bitcoin, XRP, and Ethereum today. Nothing really to write home about there either. Also, not a whole lot to write home about here on CoinMarketCap in general. We see Waves, ODM, and DEX are the top 3 gainers today, and if we scroll down here to the bottom of the page, the top 3 losers are Centrality, Mithril, and Bitcoin Private. I do believe that was everything we wanted to cover here on CoinMarketCap, so let's go ahead and jump on in to the altcoin TA, starting, of course, with XRP. I am going to be looking at the XRP over US dollar chart and the XRP over Bitcoin chart, but I do want to go ahead and bring a couple of things up here on the XRP over dollar chart to start with, because the XRP over US dollar and the XRP over Bitcoin chart, at least up until a little while ago, mirrored each other quite similarly, but now, as you can see, they look very, very different, which is why we need to look at both of them. But there are some very important levels of support on XRP over dollar and XRP over Bitcoin that we need to look at. XRP over the US dollar, the level of support, XRP over Bitcoin, the major level of support to look at is down here around 7,000 Satoshis. And that corresponds to about 45 cents on XRP, which is why I've been talking about XRP being below 45 cents for the last little while. As you can see, XRP has traded above 45 cents for quite some time, and we did recently fall below it as Bitcoin and the rest of the market started to tail off and not do very well. But the interesting thing that's come out of XRP recently is that XRP's actually been kind of a hedge against the rest of the market, and especially against Bitcoin. We see that very clearly on the XRP over Bitcoin chart, where XRP has been actually rising as opposed to Bitcoin. So we've seen XRP not drive price action down as much as Bitcoin has seen its own price action drive down. There are a couple different explanations for that. One explanation, which I think is the most valid, is that Bitcoin had been waiting for a long time to lose a lot of valuation. It didn't seem so at the time, but in hindsight, it's pretty easy to tell that Bitcoin was perhaps overvalued compared to the altcoin market, sitting at $6,000. And to go with that, XRP seems to have been doing rather well, trading around 45 cents, which seems to be why XRP didn't lose anywhere near as much valuation as Bitcoin did on its dollar comparative. XRP lost about 25%. Bitcoin lost like 35 or 40%. So not great for Bitcoin, but that does lend strength to the argument that XRP is a very strong cryptocurrency. XRP has, of course, also taken over Ethereum and taken a very large lead, which XRP has been trying to do for the entire year. So the XRP community seems to be very happy right now. If I were to give a guess of where I think XRP is going to go in the next month or so, I think it's probably going to maintain following Bitcoin, but following it and not crashing anywhere near as much. I think we're probably going to see it stay up here around 8,000 to 10,000 Satoshis, up in this range right here. We have driven up to these prices, and I think where where XRP is right now is actually a rather healthy price for the project. I think XRP, and specifically the Ripple company and corporation, not just necessarily XRP, has a very strong product. And for right now, anyway, even though I don't necessarily think XRP and Ripple should be valued anywhere nearly the same because they are two very different things, XRP does seem to be following the developments of Ripple, even though it's not intrinsically tied to Ripple and Ripple's products. So I am kind of bullish on XRP at the moment, as opposed to the rest of the market in general. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk about Ethereum. Is Ethereum not there? There's Ethereum. Let's go ahead and talk about Ethereum, because Ethereum has not been doing very well. Ethereum has had a bad couple of months here. In fact, just really a bad year. Ethereum was trading at over 10 times what it's trading at right now at the beginning of the year over here when it hit all-time high. I believe it was on like January the 13th, 2018. Not a great year for Ethereum. Ethereum has lost a lot of valuation, and it's also lost the number 2 spot, which is a big blow that I don't think Ethereum is necessarily going to recover from until the next bull market. And even with that, it may never recover back to the number 2 spot. We'll see what happens. It's kind of hard to predict those things out into the future, because when these cryptocurrencies are as close to their intrinsic value as they are compared to when they hit all-time high, the actual fundamental developments in the cryptocurrencies have much larger implications and impacts on the price action of the cryptocurrency, if that made any sense. And we can't really predict those things as well, because those aren't really that's not really technical analysis, it's fundamental analysis. Anyway, Ethereum does seem to be setting a strong bottom down here, kind of around $100. $100 is a very, very strong psychological level of support, because it starts with a 1 and it has zeros after it. Anytime that you see a level like that, it's going to be a strong level of support. 10 cents for XRP would be a very strong level of support, for example. $10,000 on Bitcoin was a very strong level of resistance, for example. Anything that has a 1 in it and a couple of zeros in it, or however many zeros in it, is going to be a strong level of support or resistance. If we scroll back on Ethereum, I would imagine, I haven't checked this in advance, but I would imagine we see some resistance right around $1,000. If we were to drag out right here, what do you know? There's some resistance right there. I didn't even plan that. We just found some resistance there because one followed by some zeros is almost always a very important level of support or resistance. And that's one of the things that leads me to believe that Ethereum is going to show some strength down here around $100. Ethereum has lost like 50% of its valuation and the number 2 spot here in the last 2.5 weeks or so. Really just in the last month, Ethereum has not been doing very well. And because of that, I'm sure, and like I said, I haven't really done a whole lot of proofing on these markets, although I do have a general idea of what I want to talk about. Sometimes I do that simply so I can ad-lib this in practice, my TA. But one thing I did have a feeling was going to happen, and which does turn out to be true, is that Ethereum's RSI would be very overextended. As we could see, Ethereum's RSI, because of this bearish movement right here, drove Ethereum's RSI all the way down to around 16. So Ethereum got very oversold in a similar manner to how Bitcoin did. And that's what leads me to believe that these markets are either going to trade sideways or move up a little bit coming into the next couple of weeks to try and reset that RSI and give the strength back to the bulls for a little while, because the bulls have been waiting for it. And typically the market you can think of the market as a pendulum, with the strength moving from the bulls to the bears, kind of moving back and forth. It's kind of like how in political elections you see the strength of in America, for example, the Republicans and the Democrats kind of moves back and forth every 8 years or so. A similar thing happens with the bulls and the bears here in cryptocurrency markets. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to EOS, and I do want to talk about Stellar also. I'm not going to get to all of the top 10 cryptocurrencies, but I do want to get to some of them because there is a lot of interesting stuff to talk about in these altcoins. I just don't have time to do it all in one video. One thing that I'm not very happy about with EOS is that EOS broke $4 of support. As we can see right here, $4 was a rather strong level of support for EOS, and we broke it. Another thing that was sad for me to see is that EOS had this very nice uptrend of support right here, which not really because of EOS, but mainly because of this overall sentiment of the market. The bear market in general was not able to hold. I was looking forward to that holding on into the future because I thought it was a very strong trend line that really was really doing a good job of representing the underlying intrinsic value of EOS as the EOS project continues to grow. I'm a big fan of EOS, and I have a lot of qualms with Ethereum, for example, and I think EOS fixes some of those. But of course, EOS is not perfect either, and we've seen that show through in the technicals as of the last month or so, because EOS has also not been doing very well. Of course, I'm saying that about every cryptocurrency. The entire market's been doing poorly, but EOS, over its dollar comparative, has lost nearly 60% in the month of November, coming on in here into December. The same thing is true for EOS as is true for Ethereum and Bitcoin. The RSI is very overextended, sitting down here at around 20 at the moment. On Ethereum and US dollars, the RSI on the daily chart sitting around 30. So EOS is even more oversold than some of these projects. And we do know that EOS has the ability to go to very high valuations. EOS, in a similar manner to Ethereum, is sitting at around 1/10 of its all-time high. And by the way, EOS hit this all-time high in the middle of the bear market, which says a lot about the strength of EOS, and I do think that EOS is going to be a very strong cryptocurrency moving on into the next bull market, but for the time being anyway, it's not doing that well. Now, one thing you have to keep in mind about all these altcoin markets is that since they've lost like 60% of valuation, that might encourage you to want to invest in this market because, well, there's been such huge losses, and surely there's going to be some kind of bounce, but that doesn't necessarily always happen. I know I just said that with RSI, and I do think there's going to be a bounce in the next couple of weeks or so, but that doesn't mean it's coming tomorrow. So you have to be careful about buying into these markets and catching a falling knife, because these markets could keep going towards the floor over the next couple of weeks before they finally inevitably get a bounce. They are going to get a bounce. They're not just going to go to zero. These cryptocurrencies do have utility value, but my point is you have to be careful just buying into a market because it's going down. Use your technical analysis and more than one technical indicator to try and discern a bottom, or at least try to discern the area of a bottom and a turning point before you get in or get out of the market. A little bit of general technical analysis advice there. Anyway, let's go ahead and get on to Lumens and Litecoin and maybe Cardano, and I think we're going to wrap the video up there. Not a whole lot I want to talk about on the Bitcoin Cash front because the Bitcoin Cash chart just looks like an absolute clown fiesta right now. Not really interested in talking about Bitcoin Cash at the moment. I might do a video on dedicated to Bitcoin Cash and that whole debacle now that the whole Bitcoin Cash hard fork thing is in the rearview mirror. Anyway, one thing I did want to talk about here on Lumens over Bitcoin is the fact that Lumens here was in a very long pennant. Stellar Lumens is not a very old cryptocurrency, and just about ever since its inception, and especially its listing here on Binance, we see that, I almost said XRP, we see that Lumens here has been in this consolidation pattern right here, which was a very interesting pattern indeed, because you normally don't see consolidation patterns last for that long. It was almost like a bull flag from Lumens' initial run-up here at the very beginning of 2018, at the tail end of the bear market. Lumens is just old enough to have been there for the very end of the 2017 bull market. And we were in this consolidation pattern for a long time, and we finally broke bullish out of it. And I was waiting for this to break bullish, and when it broke bullish, I wasn't looking at the chart, and I failed to make the trade that I was planning on making for like 2 months, because I saw this happening. I noticed this consolidation pattern like back over here, and I've been waiting for it to break this, and I was gonna make this trade, and I freaking missed it. I was very annoyed by that, but you know, it happens. There's always more money to be made around the next corner. But my point here is that Lumens did break bullish out of this, and ever since then has actually been doing rather well. And by rather well, I mean it's been trading sideways, but that's rather good compared to the rest of the cryptocurrency markets. And that shines through here on CoinMarketCap, because Lumens has been climbing this list steadily all the way up to the number 4 position now. It's actually managed to usurp Bitcoin Cash in Bitcoin Cash's time of crisis, which is very interesting. Who knows if Stellar is going to maintain this position, but for the time being anyway, Stellar is actually the number 4 value cryptocurrency and doing rather well. I'd like to see Lumens continue to move in this general upwardly direction, and I'd like to see what comes out of Lumens moving on into the future. A lot of people are very big fans of Lumens because of what it actually stands for and what it does. I'm not going to get into that in today's video. We simply don't have time. But I do have to get to Litecoin, because the entire reason I made this video was because I was reminded to make an altcoin TA video by someone who wanted some Litecoin technical analysis. I apologize, I forget your name, but you know who you are, so here we go. Anyway, Litecoin is currently trading around $32, which is a very low valuation for Litecoin. I've told you guys many times in the past, the first cryptocurrency I ever bought was in fact Litecoin at $41.02 a share, back over here somewhere. I forget exactly where it was, but that was the first cryptocurrency I ever bought. It actually wasn't Bitcoin, it was Litecoin, because Litecoin, it was easier for me to buy a whole Litecoin. I was very excited to own one whole Litecoin. Actually, I bought way more than one whole Litecoin, but it was very exciting to own entire shares of the cryptocurrencies rather than just like a billionth of a Bitcoin, if you know what I mean. And that's an exaggeration, of course, but my point is here, I've been a very big fan of Litecoin for a very long time, and I think it is a good cryptocurrency and a good project. But one of my problems with Litecoin is that it doesn't differentiate itself from Bitcoin enough. One thing that's a very big problem for Litecoin is it doesn't differentiate itself enough from Bitcoin, and also that Bitcoin hasn't been doing very well in 2018. And since Litecoin and Bitcoin are very similar cryptocurrencies, Litecoin is almost a clone copy of Bitcoin with a couple of changes made to it. Because Bitcoin's not doing so well, and Bitcoin's the big brother in this situation, Litecoin's going to do even worse, because Litecoin is essentially a copy of Bitcoin with things like the block times reduced, which helps with the fees and the block size, and there's more cryptocurrencies. For example, I think the total coins for Litecoin is 84 million as opposed to Bitcoin's 21 million. So there's more Litecoin. There's a couple of tweaks, and one of the reasons that Litecoin is so similar to Bitcoin is because Litecoin is so very old. But my main problem with Litecoin is that it doesn't do enough to differentiate itself from Bitcoin. So therefore, when Bitcoin does badly and Litecoin is almost exactly the same cryptocurrency, Litecoin's going to do even worse, which is why Litecoin's down by it's trading at like a 12th of its all-time high right now. And that's okay, because Litecoin is a different project, and when the bull market does come, and when we see a lot more transactions happening, if Lightning Network isn't online by then, Litecoin is going to be the go-to cryptocurrency again for transactions, because its fees are so much lower than Bitcoin's, and that is going to be a very important factor moving on into the next bull market. But for right now, I'm seeing a lot of weakness come out of Litecoin, and I have for a very long time. As you can see, I have a lot of TA here on the chart that I've left for the entire year, so I can look back on it, because I do like Litecoin, and every single time Litecoin has let me down. We had strong support at $110, we had strong support at $75, then at $54. Now it looks like we're setting support down here at $28 and $30, but guys, who knows if that's going to last. I think I could do technical analysis on Litecoin all I want, but the main thing I want to instill in you guys is that what I see coming out of Litecoin is that Litecoin follows the Bitcoin market, but just underperforms Bitcoin. It seems like Litecoin does have its own market, it does have its own technicals, but it seems to me like Litecoin basically just mirrors Bitcoin, but does worse than Bitcoin. So what I'm saying is that it might not be a good idea to get into Litecoin at the moment. It might not be a good idea to trade Litecoin at the moment, but when the new bull market starts, Litecoin is going to be one of the first cryptocurrencies that I go to start investing in when I really do believe that a bull market is coming for the long term. Because Litecoin is, as I've said in the past, the OG altcoin. It's been here since the very beginning. Not since the very beginning, but since very, very early on. If we come to the tools here on CoinMarketCap and go to historical snapshots, then we can see what cryptocurrencies were doing all the way back this far into 2013. And as you can see, Litecoin was there. Litecoin's a very old cryptocurrency. It's run by a very good group of guys. I do like Charlie Lee, and I'm a very big fan of the project. So I will be investing in it moving into the next bull market. But until that happens, I would be careful with Litecoin. Anyway, let's go ahead and do ADA, and then we're going to wrap the video up. The video is already just a little bit too long, but these altcoin videos always take a little while. That's probably, well, not probably, that is why I'm talking a little bit faster than normal. A lot of people are like, Jeb, you talk really fast. And I respond to them, actually, I'm talking slower than I normally do. So I'm trying to get through the video. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk about Cardano. I am a fan of Cardano also. I'm actually a pretty big fan of most cryptocurrencies here in the top 10. Now, of course, I'm not even going to touch on Bitcoin SV. I'm not a huge fan of Bitcoin Cash. And Tether is Tether. I'm not even going to touch Tether either. But many of these other cryptocurrencies I do think deserve a top 10 valuation. So I'm not exactly opposed to any of these cryptocurrencies. I'm not going to bash any of these cryptocurrencies, and I do like Cardano. I do like the project, and I do like many of these other cryptocurrencies here in the top 10. But one thing I want to talk about with Cardano is that Cardano has a similar problem that Litecoin has of setting previous strong levels of support and then breaking them. We had a strong level of support at 2,000 Satoshis, and then we broke it. We kind of had a stronger level of support down here at around 1,500 Satoshis for a little while, but we didn't really hold that for very long, and we broke it. And now we're setting support down here kind of around 1,000 Satoshis, but currently XRP over the last couple of days has come up to it, tested it, and rejected off of it actually, which is not a good thing. You don't want to see Cardano try and set a double bottom down here and then get resistance at the level it was trying to set the double bottom at. That's not a good thing to see coming out of Cardano. And I'm not happy to see that at all. One thing I am happy to see about on Cardano, though, is that Cardano, like Bitcoin, has also recently had a bullish MACD cross and is also one of the highest RSI, has one of the highest RSI values of any of the cryptocurrencies in the top 10 right now. Its RSI is sitting up here around 40, which actually indicates more strength than the rest of these markets because the RSI didn't have to crash as much as the rest of these markets did. Let me go ahead and get rid of that. I meant to grab this tool because RSI is calculated based on how the market moves, based on how many red candlesticks there are, how many green candlesticks there are, and how big those red and green candlesticks are. So the fact that the RSI didn't go down to like 15 like it did on many of these other markets means that this crash right here wasn't as severe as many of these other markets, which does in fact show strength in Cardano. Now, whether or not that's because Cardano is very strong or whether or not that's because Cardano is already so close to its floor because it's already crashed so much this year is kind of up for debate. But my point is here is that Cardano, despite getting rejected here on 1,000 Satoshis over the last 48 hours, does look rather strong, and I do think Cardano would also be a good altcoin to be investing in when the next bull market starts. I want to make myself very clear on that. I'm not saying right now. I'm saying when we get some kind of indication that a proper bull market is starting, I think Cardano would be a good idea to add to my portfolio, and I will be adding a lot more Cardano to my portfolio when the next bull market starts. Anyway, guys, I'm surprised we managed to get through all of that without my mouth like exploding because I talk at like 1,000 words a second or anything. I have no idea. You guys think I talk a lot faster than I think I do. I don't even think I talk that fast. You guys seem to think that. I don't know. Anyway, guys, that's basically going to do it for this video. Tell me in the comments section down below what you think of that technical analysis. Do you agree with the Bitcoin TA, with the Litecoin TA, with the XRP TA, with the Ethereum TA? Do you agree with any of the TA? If you agree with any of it, tell me. If you disagree with any of it, well, tell me that also. If you like the video, definitely consider dropping a like. If you dislike the video, consider dropping a dislike. It helps my engagement. A lot of people really don't understand that. They're like, okay, well, I hate this video. I'm going to hit the dislike button, or I'm going to write 10 mean comments. You're actually just helping me, so if you want to keep hating, by all means. Anyway, guys, that's going to wrap the video up for today. I do want to thank each and every single one of you for watching as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.